Good morning. This is Dr. Kim from CGI Clinic. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist based here in Adelaide. And today I'm answering some questions for a secondary student by the name of Kiera from Brighton Secondary High School. Now, Kiera's doing her stage 2 project for her school, and her research question is all about, can the brain be rewired to change unproductive habits? Can the brain be rewired to change unproductive habits? Now, I definitely do believe that people can change their habits and be more productive. As a psychiatrist, I'm working with people who may be suffering from a mental health disorder or a mental health problem, and it's my job to help them understand more about their problem and how we can use treatments such as therapy, talking therapy, or medications to help them make some more positive changes and ultimately recover and heal from their mental problems. So her first question is, in your field, have you found it possible to rewire someone's brain and change their unproductive habits and addictions? Now, this term rewiring is, I guess, an interesting term because it's thinking about the brain as though it's like a computer where you can either change the hardware or the software or change the connections. And I think the reason why this rewiring term exists is because our brain is made up of billions upon billions of neurons, little pathways that connect our brain cells together, which travel through electrical signals. And it's really important that we look after our brains and to build good habits, because what we do every day and what we do through repetition and through habits, it strengthens certain pathways, certain neurons, to make the neurons essentially thicker. And what grows on your neuron is actually a insulating layer called myelin. Now, the best book to read upon habits and the idea of repetition and myelin is actually one of my favorite books. It's called The Talent Code. The Talent Code. I can't remember who wrote that book. Let me just have a quick look. I did look this up. The Talent Code is by Daniel Coyle. Yeah, so Daniel Coyle traveled the world to so-called hotspots, which were producing people of superior talent and success. And he realized that you didn't need to have, the best genetics or the best resources. A lot of your talent came from hard work and your environment. And he talks about how every time you repeat something, repeat a habit or practice or train your brain, each time those neurons, they get thicker and thicker with more myelin. And so you're turning these streets where your brain signals fire into roads, and those roads into highways so that they can travel faster and more accurately. And that's what makes someone more talented than the next person. Now, in terms of unproductive habits and addictions, I guess the best way to explain this is through my special interest, which is video gaming addiction, which is now considered a mental disorder by the World Health Organization, which is characterized pretty much by someone having lost their ability to control their video gaming time and experiencing negative consequences because of their video gaming habits and prioritizing video gaming over other important things like eating or sleeping or spending time with your family. Now, in the video games industry, they have something what's called the 3 H's. The 3 H's. So that's hook, habit, and hobby. So they hook players in with something that's really interesting to them. It could be the achievement aspects in games, the social aspects, or skins, or any kind of reward within the game can hook a player in. The second thing is you want to make sure that the player develops habits like logging into the game every day or logging into Snapchat every day and making that a habit, and then creating that habit into a hobby or a lifestyle that becomes part of their life. Now, as a psychiatrist who treats people with video gaming addiction, I have coined the 5 H's, which is hook, habit, hobby, harm, and hazard, and then harm. So I do believe that once someone goes beyond the hobby, that it takes over their life, it can become a hazard to their lives. And then beyond the hazard, it can start causing some harm to their lives. So the 5 H's: hook, habit, hobby, hazard, and harm. Now, in terms of rewiring someone's brain, another important term to remember is plasticity. Plasticity is essentially the ability for your brain to adapt and change and rewire those neurons or the neuronal pathways. Now, in the past, people thought that once your brain was set, it never changed and you couldn't learn anything new. But now we know that even with brain damage, or people who are quadriplegics, or people who have suffered a stroke, the brain can still be plastic and can still change and grow. All right, question number 2. Can you please explain how certain influences such as environment and stress may impact someone's ability to overcome unproductive habits? It's an excellent question. So this is talking about barriers to people overcoming bad habits. And in medicine or in psychiatry, we often talk about the biological factors, the psychological factors, and the social factors, all influencing on someone's ability to get better. And environmental factors might be that they don't have a lot of money, that they come from an area of low socioeconomic background, or they might have family problems. They might be going to a school where they're bullied a lot. Habits are like growing a plant in a garden that's full of weeds. Eventually the weeds take over. But if you spend your time in that garden, you take out the weeds every day, you water the plant, you get good sunlight, fertilizer, and take care of that garden, then you can grow beautiful flowers, vegetables, whatever you like. And so the environment is very, very important. Someone whom I went to watch a talk this week was Nobel Prize winner, should know his name because I saw his talk this week. I think it was Peter Doherty, top of my head. Professor Peter Doherty. Yes, I was right. I was doubting myself. So this week I went to town hall, listened to a talk by Nobel Prize winner Peter Doherty, who's a biologist, and he described it as a biologist. He controls the environment of his experiments and makes changes to those environments and adds different stresses or take away stresses to see what happens. And he said that the biggest threat to mankind in terms of our environment is, of course, climate change, and that we need to do something about it. And no matter what our environment is and our habits, we need to change our habits in order to reverse and stop climate change. So unproductive habits might be driving your car, using fossil fuels. You know, we should be riding our bikes or walking more often, or changing to renewable energies. So that's ways that we can change our everyday habits in order to not only change our environment, but to save our environment. Third question, do you think nature or nurture is the bigger contributing factor to forming unproductive habits? Now, as a psychiatrist, we do take into consideration both nature and nurture. And I've got in my background this whole time the seven habits of highly effective teens. And I would have to say that it's definitely nurture, your environment, certainly your genetics, and you know, your parents have a massive role in terms of what you're capable of doing. But hands down, if the person has the best genetics, but they have really poor habits, then or their environment, like they're not looked after properly, they're neglected, or they hang around the wrong people, then they're going to form unproductive habits. Now, my favorite book as a high school student was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. I found this book so helpful. One of the number one habits is being proactive, taking charge of your life, taking responsibility, because once you realize that you can overcome your genetics, overcome nature, and take control over your life and make positive choices, then you can form better habits. Now, my best example of this is actually in year 12. In year 12, I desperately wanted to get into medicine, and they had changed the rules. They had changed the rules so that you had to not only get good grades in class, but you had to also pass an aptitude test and an interview, a live interview with 2 strangers. Now, the mark side of things, I was very happy with doing. I was book smart. And with the aptitude test, I scored very well on that. But my weakness was definitely the interview. Now, with the interview, I just didn't have the experience of talking with people. So what did I do? Every day on the way home from school, at the bus stop, all I would do was sit at the bus stop, and if there was a person sitting next to me, I would force myself to say hello to them, and I waited. When the person turned and said hi back to me, that was my opportunity to start talking to them and introducing myself, and eventually weaving into that conversation why I wanted to study medicine. Now, the first few times I was stumbling, I was nervous, I didn't know what to say, but because I caught the bus every day, it was a very convenient time for me to practice talking to complete strangers. And by the end of the year, I was much more comfortable talking with adults. Now, I know we are taught, don't talk to strangers, but at that point in time, this was, back in 1999, over 20 years ago, I simply didn't have the money to pay for professional coaching. Now, nowadays, you can pay thousands of dollars to attend a coaching course on how to speak, but I simply didn't have the money to pay for that. So in order to form good habits, make the most of your environment and the people around you, and seek out help that's convenient. So for me, it was very convenient to combine the speaking with people at the bus stop with going home. I was going home every day. I had to catch the bus home every day. And so I made the most of that opportunity. So having habits that are convenient is really useful. So the other thing is, you know, the bad habits is looking at your phone every day. Our phones, there you go, there's my phone there. Phones are on our body all the time. They're so convenient. So it's very convenient to be distracted by our devices because it's right there in front of us. And so if you want to form a good habit, you want to study for your exams and concentrate better, you might actually hand over your smartphone to your parents to hold on to for a couple of hours, lock it away, delete those apps. Say to yourself, okay, I'm going to commit myself to focusing and I want no distractions. So I need to take control over my environment to minimize those distractions. And in my year 12, I would go to the state library or the university library where it was quiet and I could get work done. And so it's important to acknowledge that nurture and the environment is very important and more important than your genetics. Number 4, what strategies do you use to change unproductive habits? Oh, I've already answered that question. Which strategies do you find to have the greatest long-term success rate? Well, I'll add to this. You need to know where you're going with your habits, the reasons why you need to form those good habits. Now, for myself, I want to improve my swimming ability, for example. I'm a member of the university swim club and I swim with the local surf life-saving club. And I'm always stuck in the slow lane and I want to get better. And I realize that I'm fit, but it's actually my technique that is failing me. And so my club has an early morning swim correction lesson on a Tuesday morning. And it's very hard for me to get out of bed in the morning when it's super cold and I wanted to sleep more. And so what I've been doing is I've been changing my habits and making it more convenient for me to get to those early morning training sessions in the city. And so what have I done? I've actually resorted to sleeping in my office. Yes, that's right. I'll go to my office, bring all my change of clothes, everything I need, my toothbrush, do some work, and I'll actually just lie down in my office in the city where it's only a 5-minute walk from the pool, and I'll sleep the night. It's not the most comfortable experience, but it's much easier to wake up in the morning when there's a cleaner vacuum cleaning next to me and waking me up. So it's the best alarm clock. And I'm very happy to wake up and go to training because I'm awake and I've got no excuse. The other strategies that is really helpful is to think long term. And the game designers, the app designers, they know that in order to form a habit, someone needs to do the same thing every day for at least 3 to 4 months. So video game designers, they are aiming for at least 120 days in a row to check in before they know that someone's going to spend money and they can make money off that player. It's the same with Snapchat and Snap streaks. People are maintaining these streaks, believing that the Snap streak is a measure of their friendship and the value of their friendship. And so it actually creates a sense of anxiety and a false need to keep checking in every day. And eventually it becomes a habit. And so to change those habits, you actually have to break the cycle and take a break from it. And unfortunately lose the Snap streak. So you have to create streaks on habits that you want to form and break those streaks of those unhelpful habits. Last question. Do you encourage your clients to utilize a growth mindset when they are changing their unproductive habits and addictions? Now, to be honest, I don't use the term growth mindset in that sense or frame it in that sense in a session. And there's probably some reasons for that. I think that underneath it all, I am implying that there's a growth mindset, but I am more likely to use words like hope, a hopeful mindset. It's really important that when you're working with someone who's down in the dumps, really sad, or really struggling with their mental health, that you provide them with hope, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that there is support and help available, and that we can make a change, that they don't have to be controlled by their addictions or their unhelpful habits. I think that for some people, if you're feeling down, the word growth can seem like you're punching down on them. That's a phrase that people use in comedy. Comedians use that term, punching down. It's about looking at where you are at relative to the other person and the power imbalance. And so the word growth could be, I guess, patronizing or looking down on someone and saying, hey, it's time to grow up, climb out of this hole that you're in. It's not that bad a word, but there are, I guess, better ways, I think, that can be approached. So I think having some hope and sitting with them down in that really dark place and shining some light can help lift them up a bit without putting them down. The other way of looking at it, I had the word in my head. It's not growth mindset, hope. What was the word? Hope. Unproductive habits, growth. Recovery is a word. No, yeah, that's right. The word is, I guess, positive psychology. Yeah, that's probably another way of describing growth mindset, is the positive psychology and having some, I guess, a viewpoint of a glass is half full than a glass half empty, and your view on your current situation. There is a good framework that I'll look up right now. It's called PERMA Plus. PERMA model, the scientific theory of happiness. Let's try and, all right, this was by Martin Seligman, who was a thinker in residence in Adelaide once upon a time. So I may as well share my screen actually, so you can see it. Share screen. Here we are, PERMA model. All right, PERMA Plus model. P for positive emotion, E engagement. Yeah, we can understand that. Engagement is, I guess, how effective the message is getting across. R is positive relationships. Oh, this is a good one. I really want to talk about this. M for meaning, A for accomplishments and achievement. I want to finish up on positive relationships because it's really about surrounding yourself by people who share the same values and who care about you, and belonging to a community. I think that's so important. Surrounding yourself by friends who want you to succeed and want to share the success with you. For example, I'm a member of the local surf lifesaving club. I grew up around the beach, and one day I was swimming in the ocean, and obviously someone thought I was in distress. I wasn't in distress. I was just diving and looking for stuff in the water, and someone came up on their surfboard and said, "Hey mate, are you okay?" And I said, "Yep, I'm fine." I said, "Are you from the surf club?" And he said, "Yep." And I asked them, "What is the surf club all about?" And they said, "Oh, there's a gym, you volunteer, and you get to spend lots of time at the beach." And so I signed up to become a surf lifesaver, and the people there are really what's keeping me there. I mean, everyone there is a volunteer. It's all about giving back to the community, and I think it's those positive relationships that help me to keep contributing back. And of course, it's the environment also. It's like an excuse to go to the beach where it's pleasant and enjoying the water, because I love being in the ocean, and these people love the ocean too. And so I want to surround myself by these positive people, and I think that's what's really important, a sense of community, and also spending time with my friends and family. So that's my video for today. Thanks for signing in. If you're a high school student and you've got a project, I'm more than happy to do these videos. It's a great way to engage young people who are really curious and passionate about learning. And I believe that if I'm able to help young people out there, then they will be able to help others too. So giving back. Thanks again. Bye.